physical part. I didn't want anything to be realistic, literal, but at times I wanted it to be very literal. You know what I mean? So that was a lot of trial and error, trying to figure out, is this so weird people won't understand, or is this just weird enough that it will illustrate the point? You know what I mean? And at the same time, you want it to be a freaking good story. I mean, that's why we're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. We just wanted to talk to you about your play Drearie, Dearie, which we got to see at my brain's gonna freeze every now and then. Cincinnati Fringe. Yes, I'm not here. We got to see it at Cincinnati Fringe. So why don't we start from the beginning? Where did that idea come from?
Yes. So my first marriage was an abusive marriage, and I started thinking about marriage as theater for everyone, whether you're an actor or not, and about how when you are on the receiving end of domestic violence in a partnership, in a romantic partnership, you become a skilled performer, whether you act professionally or whether you don't. And you both kind of are part of the same cast, and pulls you very, very close.
Mm-hmm. I get that. That makes a lot of sense. I told you, like, I think in one of our messages, like on our blog, I had been in like an abusive situation, but with my stepfather, and I kind of went through a big ordeal with that. And it's definitely a performance. You're not just performing for outside people, you're kind of performing in that relationship too, to kind of keep yourself safe, so to speak.
Absolutely. You have your lines.
Mm-hmm.
You have your lines, you have your entrances and exits, and you both know them very well, and you need to do that. You need to be at places when it's time to go. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so you use the format of a one-woman show. I love the tagline, a one-woman show interrupted. And so it actually becomes not about her performance per se, but it becomes about this whole big sort of metaphor for different abusive relationships, from emotional to psychological to physical, in each sort of vignette, I almost want to call them, like each different part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It was very important to me to have the show catch her at the beginning of a new cycle for something that's been going on for some time now. And every time she thinks she's going to get to tell it this time, you know what I mean? Every cycle you think is going to be the time that it's different, even though nothing is different. And yes, so I, in my headcanon, they've been married for 3 years, as it says in the script. And so for 3 years, she's gotten to this point in her monologue, interrupted her. And that's what they're stuck in.
Okay, so it's almost like they're both trapped in this. Not that he isn't a problem, but they're almost both trapped in the cycle.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What was your writing process like, starting from this is my idea to, getting it on paper? Were there several drafts you went through? Talk about your creating.
Oh, several drafts, yes, absolutely. So much of this process was almost like a meditative, just sort of let your mind kind of bloom out. You know what I mean? Because I knew that it was going to get weird. So I was like, first of all, I'm starting with this monologue, and I don't want it to be good, because it was important that she not be a trained performer. It's important that she has a story, but not important that she's that is particularly engaging even. So to start out, I started with her story about being buried alive by her cousin. And then it was all about the tweaking and figuring out when she would be getting into the story, as opposed to when the real life audience watching Dearie would start to lose interest in this story that's okay but not that well told, and when to pull Tom in, and the idea that the abusive husband would actually be a breath of fresh air, would actually be the sparkly one, the one who's interesting and fun to watch, and the audience would be like, oh, thank God. There's a charismatic person, you know, which is honestly, which is how I felt a lot, which kind of reflected how I felt with my first marriage. He's the warm one. He's the good listener. He's the one that people want to talk to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a ton of drafts on that monologue. And then I just wanted to touch on, you know, the most visual and abstract ways that you could illustrate these pieces of abuse, like you were saying, the psychological part, the physical part. I didn't want anything to be realistic, literal, but at times I wanted it to be very literal. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that was a lot of trial and error, trying to figure out, is this so weird people won't understand, or is this just weird enough that it will illustrate the point? You know what I mean? And at the same time, you want it to be a freaking good story. I mean, that's why we're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey guys, if you like what we just did, there's going to be plenty more coming up. Please like, comment, subscribe. Our Venmo is in the description. Please support us if you can. Our cats need the money.